I want to address dating in your 50s and beyond. I'm going to be 61 soon and I'm still dating. And the thing is, it's not about whether the guy likes you or, if you have the same interests. They're nice things. But what is really important is how you feel in the relationship. So if you're thinking of dating, or if you are already dating and you're kind of not getting anywhere with it, ask yourself the question, how do I want to feel in a relationship? That might help you out.
Oh, that's easy. Women who are in their 50s and 60s in the current dating market are gonna feel like they don't want to go much further in life without a retirement plan. We have covered this in previous audits, that the majority of single women in retirement age live around the poverty line. I mean, the bulk of them who divorce their husbands in their 30s and 40s don't think about these future fields. Nope, they are thinking about finding themselves, and usually finding themselves means overstuffed with Chad/Tyrone's tube steak because their responsible husbands are boring and never around. Ladies, it's a tragic comedy that you choose to be single in order to become happy, only to find statistically women end up less happy being single as they age. Moving on.
I wanted to revisit a post that I posted last year about putting yourself first.
You might be experiencing a new chapter in your life, but take it from me, you can, and you absolutely will survive if you're putting yourself first.
This is a message that I wholeheartedly believe in, but I wanted to clarify something. Putting yourself first does not mean being shitty to other people. It's about finding balance. There are times in our lives where we do put other people before us because that's what you do in relationships. But again, it's about balance. So prioritizing self-care and setting boundaries are very important, and your needs do matter. Filling your own cup is very vital because you can't pour from an empty cup. But it's not an excuse to trample on other people's feelings, and especially those that are in your inner circle. So yes, put yourself first, but remember the magic word, balance.
I beg to differ. The reason isn't that complicated there, my advanced post-walk Halloween. You see, this putting yourself first attitude is exactly one of the big driving forces behind that female-led 70% plus divorce rate. Yeah, thinking about me the bulk of the time leads to breaking up a family. Sorry, ladies, just like I will admit, women are far better at picking up on the subtleties of body language than men, I will also say men are far more willing to sacrifice themselves and place their family's needs first long term. This little attempt to fix it by saying pick and choose when to place yourself first is about as believable as a woman is saying she is all about men's rights. Sorry, sister, but when you are in a serious relationship, like marriage, for example, there is no picking and choosing. You both have to make sacrifices and compromises to make it work long term. I bet this is the type of queen who will claim her ex was toxic because he wouldn't let her put herself first above everyone else in the family. Moving on.
Through this whole spiritual healing growing journey, I really thought I had to be alone to do it, right? I get involved with someone and the dynamic changes. Here's what I thought. I thought because in the past when I've been in a relationship, it was created through a trauma bond. So we had this trauma and we would talk about the trauma and that bonded us. And so I put it in the category of, oh no, this is no good. You can't talk about your pain and your suffering and the dragons, for example, behind you because that's a trauma bond. No, here's what I didn't realize. And I'm only sharing this in case other people were in the same headspace as me. If it's obvious, I'm super sorry. A trauma bond is when you have these issues, you come together to discuss them, and you hold each other in that space of negativity and trauma. And so it builds on the negativity and trauma. So it's kind of like victimhood, where you serve each other with, yeah, I had this too. Oh my God, isn't that awful? Yeah, that sucks. And you keep going into the negative space of it. The healing part, which is what I'm experiencing with Ken, is when the dragon comes and I say to him, oh my God, there's a dragon over there. He cuts the shit out of it. He slays it for me. And then he comes back to me and he allows me to be in that space, go through the pain. And instead of him contributing to it, he shows me a path to the light through it. You can share the space and the pain with somebody and they have evolved enough to guide you through it. It's a whole big thing.
It was so obvious to my male viewers of what exactly happened here, I feel like I really don't have to say anything. But in all fairness, I had my female viewers who understood what this queen said, and if I say to them, don't you see the obvious of what men go through? They will probably say,
What? What are you talking about?
okay, let me do my public service for my XX chromosome closed captioning requirements. Ladies, this is a perfect example of when men say women use them as their own personal therapist. She even said that when her dragons come up, the guy is the one who goes in and slays it. Men are not replacements for professional therapists, but damn do women throw that in on them like a job requirement in any type of relationship. Oh, and to my male viewers, if you are friend-zoned and doing all this type of work without getting anything in return, you really have little defense when you are labeled a stand-in platonic boyfriend. Don't get me wrong, as I do understand some men will play this role and require bedroom fun as payment. Hey, that's on all of you. To each their own. My question is, do you think your own mental health is worth a decades plus post-wall taco?
How about no?
I'd think about it, but that's just this gorilla. It could be argued that maybe a less cracked taco would be worth the effort, but that's a discussion for another time. Moving on.
Statistics are an extremely important part of research, but you have to break down the statistic in order to get the full picture. I'm going to use your comment, for example. So 70% of women over 40 file for divorce. That is a true fact. It's a stat. But why they're filing is not 100% for the reasons that you say. Many of these women file because they're forced at it. Their hand is forced. The man has left, they've been living separate lives, and they just want to move on. I can tell you firsthand from the work that I do that many women, their men have gone off living with somebody else and refuses to file. We have to assume that a lot of this has to do with money, with not wanting to pay alimony. They've worked for half their money. Not to mention that sometimes women are working too. But in these cases, the woman has to file because the man refuses to. Sometimes the woman files just because they're over the relationship. There's nothing super bad or wrong, but it just hasn't gone well. Sometimes a woman files because of DV. And other times, yes, women do file because there was an affair and they are leaving to be with said person.
Women file for divorce 70% plus of the time. Seriously, did the guy put a gun to her head to do it? She started off with the most vague explanation and then started saying the least likely scenario first. And the part where she says women were forced to do it, really?
You know what? Wow.
Sorry there, Colleen, but your buttering up BS isn't really going to fly. I'm not saying the comment she is referring to is the top reason either. Usually the most common reason stated of why women put in for divorce in multiple online articles, I'd linked a few in the description by the way, is financial reasons. Other reasons that you will find commonly are incompatibility and infidelity. I want to throw another one in that is a spin-off when many women say, I want to find myself. I will call that one self-centered selfishness. Do I have to explain why?
How come? Tell me why! Say it! Say it!
It's because that reason is all about me. Ladies, men for the most part understand that marriage is hard work and sacrifice. They put in long hours at work to provide for their family. Where are those videos from men saying they put in for a divorce to find themselves? Oh yeah. They don't do that because their wife and children come first. What do you ladies think? Those men wouldn't rather be home with their children than working overtime to keep the lights on?
Part of patriarchy. I don't know if you're noticing a theme. Patriarchy.
But of that 70%, I'm willing to bet it is a small percent of that 70% are women who cheated. So there's a bigger picture in the stats that you have to look at. Surveys and research and statistics are extremely important for knowing and understanding patterns. For example, the survey that Dr. Kathy, therapist Rebecca, and myself conducted, we are going to break down and get statistics out of it. In that, there's going to be reasons, understandings, and you're going to break down. So you'll have a statistic like this, but within that statistic, you'll have a breakdown of what's and whys and hows. This is crucial for research. As much as some people don't like statistics, having these types of things are why or how people write research papers. This is how books get written. These are very important because it shows a pattern. Now, in today's society, things are going to be very different than 50 years ago, correct? Yeah. And until we do the research and understand the patterns behind things, we can't really understand how to help or really dive deep into these situations.
This queen is going to conduct surveys for statistics. Here's one key thing about surveys. They are based on what people say and what they are willing to admit. We already know that women are just as unfaithful as men, if not more so. But more important than that, let's call a spade a spade. During a divorce or breakup, women overwhelmingly have a drive for their friends and family to see them as the victims regardless of what they did. I am willing to bet the percentage of women who were unfaithful during their marriage that will deny it is far higher than the percentage of women who are willing to admit it. In fact, even women who go immediately into another relationship after their divorce will lie and say it was pure coincidence she met her new serious relationship only weeks after her divorce. It's videos like this that try to picture the women who are breaking up the families as forced to do it that make men automatically put it in the butt white category. Oh yeah, those modern day victims are forced to break up their families. The funny thing is, the 30% of divorces that are put in by men must have a viable reason, considering they are about to lose half of everything for putting in for that divorce.
And anybody who cares about seeing patterns in psychology, they'll understand that this is needed. It's a very important part. So, anytime you read a statistic, anytime I even say a statistic, understand that there are things behind the statistics. Now, the stat itself can be very important. Like, for example, only about 2 to 3% of people who leave to be with their affair partner actually make it past the 10-year mark. This is an important statistic to just understand and know that oftentimes when you fantasize this greater life with your affair partner, it often doesn't happen that way. This stat you can break down all you want, but it doesn't really matter because the larger majority of what you need to understand is although you think that life will be better with this person, most of the time that's not true. That's a stat that you can just use the stat in itself to really get and understand the answer and the pattern and why it's important to understand.
Okay, here I agree with her. Notice, ladies, I am not this one-sided, blockheaded gorilla. Or at least I'm trying not to be. Very few people who leave their marriages for their new partner make it far for the long term. Now, statistically, I can't prove what I'm about to say, but many women have stated this in their videos previously. That is, the majority, or at least half of the women who leave their marriages for emotional reasons usually have a backup relationship already in place. In fact, ladies, men have a term for this, and they call it monkey branching. That's how common it is. Another thing I want to touch on here, since she mentioned psychology, okay, the favorite phrase so many women use as an example of toxicity is a form of emotional roughness, we'll say. Okay. I want to ask this key question. Since that type of toxicity is verbally based, does that mean that constant nagging is definitely under that category?
Damn, skip me.
I mean, those poor kings that get told, you don't make me happy even after they did everything asked of them. Or the constant no-let-up stream of criticism or persistent annoying finding of faults laid at a man's feet. Oh, it's just too much to bear. I am tearing up just thinking about the guy who just got home from an extra shift, getting barked at by his wife, complaining he wasn't there to take out the trash.
So, as far as to answer the second question you have, what childhood trauma is causing all these women to cheat, you need to understand that 70% of these women are not cheating. That's not a true statement or fact. But as far as answering why women are cheating more in record numbers, my dog is going crazy because the gardener is here. Sorry, I had to hold him. He was going crazy. So as far as what's causing all these women to stray, there's a lot of factors that go into that. One is the great movement of the 60s and women having more rights, being in the workplace more. And the major factor is going to be social media. It's far easy to walk that road when there's tons of apps that will hide it. With married men and women being around each other in the workplace, there's going to be more opportunity. And with social media, there's going to be even more. I think also on top of that, there's a lot of things that romanticize cheating. Books, movies, novels, All of these things will romanticize the idea of having a lover on the side and turning it into a long-term relationship. So I think just in general, there's just a lot of things. But definitely, it isn't the 70% of women who are filing are having an affair. That is simply not truth. And any person who's promoting that as true, stop following them immediately. They are not telling the truth.
Again, I agree with most of what she just said. The rundown points, social media, ding, that's a big one. Novels and entertainment, romanticizing it. Again, big props there. We have found some common ground here. The movement of the 60s giving women liberation, yes, to a certain point, but that is tied into the more intimacy partners a woman has, the lower her chances of pair bonding. I can agree there. Being in the workplace, I see as 50-50 because if she is in a busy job, she will have less time to mess around. One big factor she didn't mention was boredom. Women are all about fifis, and if her man is busy working and she has too much time on her hands, well, she's gonna fill her hands, among other things, with some new sausage and sour cream. I'm also going to throw in influenced by other women. As the saying goes, misery loves company, and the sisterhood hive mind would want every woman to be equally miserable.
Show of hands for everybody who knew. Bingo.
Maybe it's just me, but that rationale could explain the slight uptick of single mothers starting on OF accounts. Hey, if mom number 1 tells mom number 2 it's exciting, fulfilling, and you make bank on top of that, those Fifi Star thoughts of being the real-life version of Julia Roberts' character in Pretty Woman quickly override common sense. I'm just saying, if you enjoy this audit, click on the video in the end screen for more content. If you would like to support the channel, please follow the link in the description to donate to our beer fund, or like, subscribe, and share this video on other social media platforms. If you agree or disagree with anything about this audit, please let us know in the comments. I'm going to leave this audit right here. I'll see all of you in the next episode.